Now, I know we all love football, but it was quite nice to have a weekend away from Liverpool being in action because of being knocked out of the FA Cup. I had to admit, I know from my perspective, I got to know my family again, having not seen them for a long time, and I'm sure you all enjoyed a weekend free of the stress that football can bring in terms of worrying about whether Liverpool are going to get a result or not. But of course, you don't get very many gaps like that in the season, do you? And although Liverpool have had the weekend off, they are back to it now, and it's straight back into a big game and Champions League action. Of course, they return to action tomorrow in the Champions League against PSG in that really tough last 16 tie that they got handed. I mean, you would have expected a little bit of a kind of draw, really, when you finish top of the entire standings. But this is the hand that Liverpool have been dealt. They've got a trip to Paris coming up, and so let's see how they get on. It is at least a very exciting one, and one for fans to really get their teeth stuck into. And of course, I've been here at the AXA Training Centre today for part of the build-up to that game, which is that we do get a look at open training, get first 15 minutes of the session to see how the players are shaping up. And to be honest, when you come to these sorts of things, all you're hoping for, really, if you not from necessarily a journalistic perspective, but maybe from a supporter perspective, is for no real surprises. Is you just want to see all the players that you should expect training. Unfortunately, we did get a little bit of a surprise, and certainly unfortunately for supporters, in that there was some big news really in that CODY GAKPO was not involved in the training session today. So it's a bit of an interesting one. He was pictured, Liverpool put some pictures out on social media in this morning, basically showing the players arriving at the training ground to begin the preparations for the game, and CODY GAKPO was part of that. Now, if it was illness, you wouldn't expect him to be. Usually they would say, look, if you've got a sickness bug or a sore throat or anything like that, stay away from the training ground so that you don't pass it on to any other players. So I think we can rule out illness on the basis that CODY GAKPO is at the training ground. And it does make you think then maybe it's something like a muscle issue or a knock or something like that, because he will be in the training ground to do some form of rehabilitation. Of course, he did have an injury recently. He missed the games against Wolves and Aston Villa after picking up a foot injury against Everton. Now, he did come back for the Manchester City and Newcastle games, both of those wins, and he was involved in both of them, but now he's out again. So it makes you wonder, is that a little bit of a recurrence of that foot issue? Is that still not right? Because obviously it was quite a bang I think he got on it, described as quite a bad knock really by Arne Slot. So maybe he just pushed himself back a little bit soon and he's had a bit of a recurrence. We'll have to see. Of course, we will find out something a little bit more concrete on this when Arne Slot holds his press conference. That is out in Paris later today. The players will fly out after this session, and then of course Arne Slot and one more player, we're not quite sure who that's going to be yet, will appear at the Parc des Princes to answer questions. I'm sure very top of the list will be the whereabouts of CODY GAKPO, because I don't expect, with him having not been involved in this final session here, I'd be really surprised if he does fly out. So you have to say that is a blow for Liverpool, that he's very unlikely to be involved in this game. He's second highest goal scoring tally this season, behind of course Mo Salah. So to lose a player like that is a blow, but Liverpool do at least have options, and it'd be interesting to see how they mix it up. Now, in terms of other little bits of team news, as I say, no other real surprises. Conor Bradley not involved in the training session after he picked up that muscle issue, and again, Slot has said recently, hasn't he, it's going to be a few weeks he's on the sideline, so wasn't expecting to see him involved today. And of course, Joe Gomez also not involved, which again is not a surprise. We don't expect him back until towards the end of the season because he's had surgery on a hamstring injury. And I do think with those two being out at the same time, it does pose a little bit of an issue. Obviously, Bradley's the second choice right back, and Joe Gomez can play right back, left back, centre half. But I think it is that right back area that's a little bit of a concern, because to have both out simultaneously, you've got to have a think about how you rotate Trent Alexander-Arnold through this period of obviously it's always really busy for Liverpool, but of course a couple of Champions League games, and they've got that cup final coming up, haven't they, the League Cup final. So you've got to really be careful with him, because he has had muscle injuries himself as well this season, so not having an obvious backup there is a concern. I think Slot's going to have to get creative. Do we see Jarell Quansah start a game at right back during this run while both of those players are out? Maybe. I think that's going to have to be an option really, because I don't think you can use Trent in every single game and not expect that there might be consequences from that. You've got to be really careful with it. Now, because that sums up the team news really, and I think really you could look at that and say, because they've got that injury there, I think one of the biggest selection headaches the manager's had recently is Luis Diaz and CODY GAKPO down that left hand side, because both of the performances have been really good, and because Gakpo isn't going to be involved, you could say that largely solves that selection headache, and so the team picks itself. But I think there's a really interesting debate really around what this team is going to look like, this starting 11. I think he's got a couple of options he could go for in terms of the shape really, and I think the obvious one you would say is that if you do lose CODY GAKPO, put Luis Diaz in on the left. Diogo Jota is fit, he was involved in the training session today, and stick with that 4-3-3 with Salah on the right. But as an alternative, maybe, and I wonder if this is why he was trying it out in the game he did, I wonder if Slot is going to go with that 4-4-2 shape that we saw against Manchester City that worked so well. Obviously, that would mean Diogo Jota coming out of the team. It would be Luis Diaz and Mo Salah effectively operating as a front two at times, and I think it gives you the option then to have Curtis Jones on that left-hand side. And I just think the reason he might look to that is that it worked so well, didn't it, in the game against Manchester City, and Liverpool defended particularly well in that game. And I think with this PSG game, they've got, it's a tough place to go at the best of times, but they've got so much attacking talent, and I think you would think that the Anfield game is a real opportunity for Liverpool to you would expect them and back them to win that game at home. So if they can come away from PSG with, a 1-goal defeat, a 0-0 draw, anything like that, I think if the game is still within 1 goal, you would really back Liverpool to go through. And so they don't necessarily have to be incredible in an attacking sense in the away game. I think if they can just defend well and limit the chances that they give up to PSG, then that would be a really good first leg result if they can, like I say, keep it within 1 goal. So I do wonder whether that's the route he's going to go down. And he does have, despite Gakpo being out, those multiple options in terms of how he plays that. So I'm really interested to see what he does there, and whether that City game was a little bit of a, let's try it out here, see if it works, and if it does, we'll try it against PSG, because I think this is a game where you are going to have to defend well, particularly when you look at the attacking talent they've got. Kvaratskhelia obviously has been added in January, but Dembele is absolutely flying. Barcola, Desiree Doué, they've got some unbelievable attackers. So it is going to be all about how well can Liverpool defend. So do let me know what you would do with that. I think it's an interesting debate around the shape. What would you go with, the 4-3-3 or 4-4-2 in this one, and what do you think the manager's going to do? And just to kind of wrap up really, I want to say that just watching training there seemed a really relaxed atmosphere. The players were going through a warm-up exercise that was getting a few laughs and having a bit of fun, and I think there should be a relaxed atmosphere around the place at the moment. Liverpool know they're in a position now where they're very, very likely to go on and win the Premier League, aren't they? And I think knowing that so early with so much of the season left gives you a real chance to have a full-on crack at the Champions League and absolutely put everything into it. And so, this should be seen as a real big opportunity. And we will learn a lot as well about Arne Slot as a manager. We know he's done very well in Europe so far, but what is he like in terms of managing these two-legged ties? That's a real interesting test for him, but he's got a great squad, hasn't he, at his disposal, and he's doing an excellent job so far, so shouldn't be expecting anything less than great results. And I do have confidence that Liverpool are able to get through this PSG tie, and if that is the case, then things do really start to open up for them. So I'm going to leave it there anyway. Do let me know what you think about that selection headache. I'm really interested to see what he goes with shape-wise for this. It's something really new that we don't really know about the manager yet, is how he approaches this. So I'm excited to see kind of how that goes. And do let me know your score predictions, how you think this tie is going to go, and what you think about that Gakpo news as well. It's a little bit of a blow, but hopefully not too bad of a blow, and we learn a little bit more about that from Slot later. So I'm going to leave it there anyway. If you can drop me a like and a subscribe, always massively appreciate it. And of course, I'll be back tomorrow for my post-match review. So see you then.